Shark attacks are increasing.
That whole island now is shut down because of that. No research, no more shark diving, anything because of that incident.
She got her arm bit off and still...
Orcas, they don't actually eat white sharks. They only want their livers. So we're down to 9% of our large sharks. We're seeing ecosystems around the world collapse. And that's when the scientists came to me and asked for help.
How do sharks mate?
Mating is very violent. The males will actually picked up the phone and I called the Jacksonville Beach Police Department. I'm like, this is the craziest phone call you've ever gotten.
What it is, Brad Lee back again with another episode of Dropping Bombs today in the studio, folks. As always, I got a real treat for you. This dude is the disruptor who dismantled the old guard in ocean science, turning secretive shark research into global open-sourced mission. With zero patience for red tape, he built OCEARCH, leading over 48 expeditions, tagging over 400 great white sharks and keystone species, slashing research timelines from years to 15-minute shark scans. He's the guy who turned shark data into actionable policy, collaborated with presidents, and made nearly 2 million people worldwide shark trackers, all because he saw the big picture and refused to wait for permission. Ladies and gentlemen, Chris Fischer in the house.
Thanks for having me, Brad.
No pun intended, but Fischer.
Yeah.
You like fishing.
Grew up in Kentucky chasing the fish and frogs around the woods and just never wanted to leave the water, and found my way back after a short career in the business space.
Now, I could be bad at, normally I'd say biography to be funny, but geography. Kentucky has an ocean?
Well, it started out with fish and frogs and, farm ponds and creeks, and it was just the love of the water and fishing, really. And then that just kind of over the years, as I grew, it migrated to the ocean space and started spending time there. And that was always my place where I wanted to go, when I had to think about things, and had grew up and had an opportunity to turn my passion to my profession when I was 29 and pivoted and started building a life in the ocean space in the late 90s, and here we are.
How many, are you always on the ocean?
No, I'm on the ocean maybe 80 or 90 days a year.
Deep in the ocean?
Yeah, that's out on big expeditions. We do 3.5, 4 week expeditions a year. I'm not counting all the days I fool around with the kids and stuff like that.
So I'm wondering how some dude from Kentucky ends up freaking the modern day Jacques Cousteau.
Yeah, it's sort of like an evolution. My dad always told me, in this entrepreneurial dinner table I grew up at, if you're passionate about an area, get in the space, start working, be observant, look around, opportunities will come by. He used to talk about the opportunity bus. It'll come by now and again, and, you can choose whether or not you want to get on it. And if you don't, it may never come back around again. And so I had a few opportunities to take some risk in the journey on the ocean space. And, it's worked out in a way that I think I could never have dreamed. I think the biggest thing is about OCEARCH is people get so captivated by these giant great white sharks we work on. But the reality is it's really a global ocean abundance program. It's about trying to make sure all our kids can eat fish sandwiches.
Yeah, see, this is the part where I'm interested because, I had no idea, sharks, without sharks, what would happen to the ocean?
There would be no fish. They would be...
You would think there'd be more fish.
Well, everyone thinks that because the sharks eat fish, right? But what happens is the presence of these white sharks, they force everything in the system to behave properly. And what that does is that maximizes abundance. So here's, for example, one white shark swimming up and down a beach of 1,000 seals on it will prevent all those seals from getting out and overeating. So one shark swimming up and down the beach, those things will stay on the beach till they're almost starving. Then they'll get in the water, get a little bit and get out. If that white shark's not there, every single one of them eats 4 times as much per day. And they eat all our stripers and our cod and our lobster. And then there's no food for us. That's what happens, right? And in the big open ocean where you don't have seals, if the sharks aren't there, the squid come up every night when it's dark. And they eat all the baby fish, all the fry, all the baby tuna, all the baby wahoo, mahi, everything. And then there's no fish for us to eat. So they are the balance keepers. They are the apex predator. It's just like the wolf in Yellowstone. When they put the wolf back in Yellowstone, the aggregate abundance of the park went up several 1,000%. of all the species that came back once the wolf was back. Because
Really?
because it got the deer and the elk under control. They weren't over foraging, and then the forest came back, and everything that lives in the forest came back. So
See, most people aren't thinking about stuff like that. Number one, how did you figure all this out? Like, I've been fishing. I love fishing, by the way. I don't like deep sea fishing. It's work.
Yeah.
That shit is work.
Yeah.
I like lake fishing.
Right.
River fishing. If I can't reel it in with one hand, if I got to strap in to reel it in, it's not, I mean, it's fun. It's exhilarating. But dude, one time I reeled so long and so hard in the deep sea that I literally almost gave up the pole. My shoulder felt like it was going to fall off. And I didn't even fish. I just sat on the boat until something went ding, and then they handed me the pole. And I'm like, I wasn't fishing, I was reeling. Yeah. So they're having me do all the hard work. And I just quit liking deep sea fishing because it was so damn difficult.
Yeah, and it's a big commitment, right? You got to go for all day. When you go to the lake, you can take your kid for an hour, right? You know, it's most people don't think about big systems, that how the planet works, right? And one big misunderstanding that people have is like, there's no life for us on land if the ocean is not functioning properly. It's almost 80% of the planet. It provides us all of our water, 2/3 of our air, and several billion people a year count on it for their protein. So there's really no future for us on land if the ocean system's not working properly. And the ocean system is managed by these large sharks. So if we get the large shark thing going right, then we got the ocean system going right. There's plenty of food for our kids, clean air, and plenty of water for us.
What about orcas? Don't they eat sharks?
Orcas eat some sharks. Yeah, orca probably that's a mammal, not a fish, right? So probably the true king of the ocean, because they definitely eat white sharks when they want to. This is a wild story. Orcas, they don't actually eat white sharks. They only want their livers. So they will kill a white shark, use their teeth to make like a surgical incision about a foot long on their belly, and then take those sharks down deep, and the pressure will push the liver out of the shark. And then they just gobble up the liver and leave the shark because of all the proteins and things that are in that liver that the orcas want. So orcas they can do whatever they want.
Are they the apex of all apex?
Of all things, yes.
So, and they're called killer whales?
Killer whales are orcas, yeah.
So how come you don't study those?
Because, mammals are much easier to study. They have to come up to breathe. So we got a much better handle on their lives, and we know how to manage them. The sharks, these large sharks, in 2006, a study came out. We were down to 9% of our large sharks. We're seeing ecosystems around the world collapse. And the scientists had never been able to handle them and leverage the latest technology to figure out where are they mating, where are they birthing, how do we bring them back? I mean, we were in a bad spot, right? We're down to 9% of the system managers with no data on how to bring them back. And that's when the scientists came to me and asked for help.
Because you were a fisherman?
Because we were fishermen. We had a show called Offshore Adventures on ESPN Outdoors for about 9 years, and we were real good at catching big marlin, big things, and letting them go. And we started helping the scientists in that space. And then when the shark crisis occurred, they asked us to pivot to help them because no one had ever been able to put their hands on a 4,000-pound mature female white shark and ultrasound it, get a blood sample, put tags on it so we knew where it goes, and then figure out where it gives birth, right? Then go catch the babies, track them, figure out where they live, help them get through the first few years of their life. So we cracked the code on that.
So how do you catch them?
Well, you got to have some tremendously talented watermen. This is a classic example of where you got the street smarts and the book smarts. You got the practical and the academic knowledge not working together because the two communities distrust each other. Scientists don't like the fishermen don't like the scientists. I'm in the middle. I'm like, well, what about our kids? Like, we have no more time for this silliness, right? And so in order to get them, you need some salty guys. Some very salty guys. And I got one of the most gifted ones in the world, I think, who's been working with me since the late 90s, a guy named Captain Brett McBride. He's the closest thing I've met to a real life Aquaman. He is gifted, man.
Why? You explain.
He grew up in San Diego underneath the water his whole life, learned how to fish on the long-range tuna fleet out of San Diego, came to work with me back in the late 90s. We started doing the shows. We started helping the scientists. We started having kids together at the same time, and wanted to do more to make sure that our kids could see an ocean that was better than the ocean that we were seeing growing up. And he's a very gifted waterman, right? And so he has the capacity to bring together people if I can provide him with the right tools and equipment to capture 4,000 pound white sharks, no problem. Now, he's not going to write a peer-reviewed published paper, but then you move to the science community for that, who can do that, and they have no chance at catching the 4,000 pound white shark, right? So we had this data deficit. That's the big challenge in the ocean, and making sure our kids eat food is we lack the data to affect change. And so really, growing up in an entrepreneurial environment, it was very easy for me to see, well, we just need to get the right group of people together on a common vision, and we can do this. And that's really what we've done. But I think it's because we come from outside the academia box. We come from the entrepreneurial box, the box where nothing's impossible because an inch is a cinch, a yard is hard. You just keep inching forward, and you got enough stamina and tenacity and refuse to quit and refuse to lose. If you can grab an inch every day over time, you're doing things that people say are impossible over and over again. And that's all we did. That's all we did is we refused. There's no losing this one. Losing this one means our kids don't eat food, right? So you got to go in.
No fish sandwiches.
No fish sandwiches, And so you got to go in with the attitude that I don't care what I run into, what happens, we are not going to stop. That's it.
You've heard that we haven't explored even 5% of our oceans. Is that true?
Yeah, they say things like that a lot, but there's a lot of ocean, 90% of the life is in 10% of the area, so right. when you start to say things like that and people think there's going to be some sort of big discoveries, there's a lot of vast open ocean that has, minimal amount of life in it.
Well, how do you know?
Well, I've been there and spent time there.
Not under it.
Not under it, right? So you got the deep scattering layer, it comes up every night and goes down during the day. But if you're talking about things like mining the ocean floor and things like that, I think that those sorts of conversations are relevant. But when it comes to fisheries management, I think we have a better handle on it than 5%, right?
Yeah. Well, the reason, because I always listen to this shit. Number one, they're supposed to be aliens, and they've been discovered that they're actually in the ocean. Underneath the surface. And I've seen some crazy videos where a UFO goes right into the water.
Yeah.
And I've seen some crazy videos where a UFO's like glowing under the water. Like, what the hell is it? Everybody's like, what the hell is that? And then it pops out and shoots off. So it's like, you being out on the ocean, do you ever see anything like that?
No, never experienced anything like that at all.
Do you buy into any of that?
Oh, I think there's a lot we don't know. Yeah. Though I wouldn't close my mind off to any of those conversations.
And then there's spots in the ocean so deep, like the Mariana Trench, right? Mm-hmm. Have you been there?
No.
So like, how do people know what's down there? You assume there's no life down there, but what if there is?
Well, there's all sorts of life around like these vents in the ocean floor where you get these big communities of unusual animals we don't see up at the surface. And there's all sorts of critters that live down there. But I don't think there's any big surprises like a secret area we haven't seen where there's massive animals living that, no one has seen for 100 years or whatever.
Have you ever been interested in sunken treasure?
Always. I think it's cool. I love to read those kind of stories, but I've never done any actual treasure hunting.
Because, dude, if I was out hunting sharks and tracking sharks and, doing that, and I'm out there anyway, I would also probably pick up hey, where are supposedly these sunken doubloons or whatever.
Yeah, that's a whole different type of vessel, a whole different type of technology. Really, the treasure here is the data. Like the data is priceless. The data is the path to abundance. That is the treasure. And that is the treasure we've been able to find and unlock over the last 15 years.
But why the data?
Because if you don't have the data, you don't end up with a peer-reviewed paper you can then take to Capitol Hill and leverage for policy. Because you're affecting economies, right, if you have a policy change. So you have to have peer-reviewed papers. And really what OCEARCH has done, we're just getting ready to publish our 100th peer-reviewed paper, is we've enabled scientists to publish papers that could never have been published before and then been able to manage areas back. You look at the United States right now, people don't know, we are in the period of the great return to abundance, man. There are more fish off our coast than have ever been off our coast since you and I have been alive.
Why do you think that's the case?
Good science and good management. Our NOAA and our state agencies are the best ocean managers in the world, and so they have regulations like slot limits and they ban certain gear types like gill nets. And they've done that over the last 30 years. And it's been nothing but just math and science and execution and enforcement.
By the way, guys, Chris Fischer is the chief in charge over at OCEARCH. You founded it, yeah?
Yeah, I did.
So OCEARCH is really the ocean research put together. If you're wondering how to spell it, it's just like ocean and research together, OCEARCH. You can find him at OCEARCH.org. Okay. This dude's been featured on all kinds of shows, had his own show, and ultimately, is kind of a legend amongst the shark fans, like Shark Week. Like everybody's fascinated with sharks. Why do you think that is?
Yeah, a lot of it depends on your age. For a certain group of us, it comes from Jaws. It's mostly the fear of the unknown, and we've been able to undo all that by documenting what their lives are like. But, it goes into people getting in the ocean. They're uncomfortable in the ocean. We spoke about it earlier. They can't see what's coming, and they think about the movies and then they get worried, right? But the one great thing about the work that we've pioneered and have become the best and most advanced in the world is that it's the most charismatic creature in the ocean, and it appeals to men and women of any age. So the real question is how can we leverage being the leader in that space and actually functionally solving the puzzle of our lives, bringing them back, which we're doing now in the United States. It's not being done in other areas as well, but we'll get there. I totally forgot the question, bro. I had a vision of.
Well, I got a million other ones, so don't worry about that one.
Yeah.
What about this one? Well, first of all, I was saying, why do you think?
Oh, so yeah. So I think it was because it was the fear of the unknown in the movies. And now people you can go to OCEARCH.org. You can track all our great white sharks in real time, see where they are right now, or get the free app.
How do you, number one, how do the people go get the app? Because I know a lot of people are going to want to do that.
You just go to the Google store or the Apple store and punch in OCEARCH or punch in Global Shark Tracker, and it'll pop right up.
And then do you just see where these sharks are live?
Real time. Every time they stick their fins out of the water, it pings in. And what we did for the first time is we included the public in the middle of the research while it was actually occurring, because their families depend on it too. And the old science way, you would never do that. You would hide your data, try to get ahead of the other scientists, publish so you can win the publish or perish kind of grant war that the scientists are living in. They're not bad scientists in the system. It's just the system is the problem. And so what we've done is do it a totally different way and disrupt the system, which has been great for young scientists. But many of the old guard didn't like seeing so many young people come up so fast. So it's been disruptive, but it had to be done. It had to be done for our grandchildren. It had to be done for us. There's just no more time for these agendas that people have that aren't just abundance, that aren't just grandchildren first. And, I didn't come from the space, so I didn't have anything to fear. And so we could just do what we felt like was great-grandchildren first all the time. And what was shocking about that was how many people in the traditional academic and research space that pissed off.
Well, that's because the first word you used, academic. For some reason, I'm not a big fan of academia. It seems like they look down on everybody in my book. And maybe it's because, I got booted out of my house at 16, so I didn't really go to college. I wanted to, but mainly for the parties and the and the networking, not for the education. But every time I've talked to, academics, they almost seem, not all of them, because again, I don't want to stereotype, but I understand when you say those two don't get along. Like the salty dudes, I'll get along with the salty dudes. I go into the academia world, they look down upon me, or at least maybe I just feel that way because maybe I didn't go to college. Maybe it's an insecurity, but it just seems like they think they know everything. And I always ask myself, how come none of them are rich?
Yeah.
Yeah. So if you knew everything, why ain't you rich? Well, they're not rich because they don't know everything. They know what they were taught, and then they act like it's law. They act like it's fact. And it's like, dude, who taught you? This person. Who taught them? That person. Who taught them? That person. Okay. Who taught the person in the beginning?
Yeah.
And how do you know it's not bullshit? Number one. And then who's funding these studies and what's their agenda?
Well, I think you should approach the community exactly how you are, with skepticism and evaluate it for yourself. Many of the things you just said are true. I still feel like I somewhat don't belong in that space because Did
you go to college?
Yeah, I went to college, but
So
I studied business,
But still, you went to college. So I was thinking maybe because I didn't go to college and
No, it's not that. The academias, they get masters and PhDs, and then they're in the ivory tower amongst their peers. Not all of them, right? But that feeling that you're describing is definitely what is slowing down our capacity to collect the data in the ocean space to make sure our kids eat food. Because
how does it slow it down?
Well, because we don't have our best fishermen working with our best academics to get the best data as soon as we can to affect things now.
Because they won't work together?
Yeah, this one thinks they're dumb. This one thinks they're arrogant. Our great-grandkids got no more time for that. I mean, really what I've been able to do and OCEARCH has been able to do is that we have tremendous trust in the fishing space because of our history with offshore adventures. We are fishermen. But now with 100 peer-reviewed papers and leading the white shark space, we also have trust at scale in the science space. So it's put OCEARCH in a unique position to try to bring these two communities together. And OCEARCH is really the pilot to prove that what was impossible for the scientist is very possible if we bring the right people together. And we did it around the most difficult subject, large great white sharks. But the reality is anytime the science community needs a data set, they should be calling the fishing community and we should be taking them out because we will collect them more data faster than they can collect on their own. And I mean like 10 or 20 or 30 times faster, not like 5%.
So you're trying to find synergy, collaboration, harmony.
I'm trying to get everybody on a great-grandchildren first disposition. Like, you want to get this done and make sure our kids eat or not. And if you don't want to do that, leave.
Well, you seem very passionate about it, but what makes you think no one's going to eat if we don't get our shit together?
Well, you can already see it in certain parts of the world. Like, I just worked this past summer over in Europe off of Spain, France, and Ireland. We were over there trying to find some of the last remaining great white sharks from the Mediterranean population. And many people don't know that, a regular statement is the Med is dead. I don't know if you've ever heard that. There's no fish in the Med. It's dead. And that stretches now out all along Western Europe. The opposite side of the Atlantic from our eastern seaboard is completely wiped out.
From what?
Overfishing. They're still using gear types that we banned 40 years ago. No management, corruption. Pick your poison. Then you come on our side of the Atlantic on the eastern seaboard, teeming with life like we've never seen since the 50s. And, I've been trying to communicate with some people like, hey, if we're doing trade deals with people over in Europe, part of that trade deal needs to be they got to start doing some of these things we're doing in our ocean. I mean, we have a playbook on how to bring back the ocean. It's not a mystery. We've done it. NOAA's done it. We're the world leader. But these people over there, they're going to come for our food. They're not going to have any choice. We're going to have a food security problem if we don't get them cleaning up their backyard.
Well, there's no fence. How come the fish don't just migrate over there?
Well, we don't see a lot of fish that actually cross ocean basins. I mean, there's a few species that do, but most of them have a kind of the western North Atlantic, the eastern North Atlantic. Few things cross over, but for the most...
Why do you think that is?
Well, the distance is vast. And for the fish, for example, that live along our coasts, they would have to swim through a tremendous amount of habitat that's not their normal habitat to get to where they would find it again on the other side. And, you can already see them. I mean, they're lined up out there just outside of our U.S. EEZ. But I'm telling you, some of this stuff Trump's doing, I'm excited about, man. Like, if you're going to redo all these trade deals, make them make these 4 or 5 moves in their ocean space too, or we're not going to trade with them. Because if we don't get them coming back, we're going to be shooting their boats out of the water. Because we ain't going to let them take our food, our kids' food, and our people are going to eat. We're going to eat in the United States of America. But it's not certain in other places.
Dude, I love your passion. It's
it is what it is. It's real deal stuff.
You make me feel like, damn it, we got to save the ocean. And I didn't even know we had a problem with it.
Well, in the U.S., we're making great progress. You never hear about it, right? Because in the nonprofit space, the cash flows when the sky is falling. So this constant barrage of negative news, even amongst the time when we're winning, is really affecting our kids.
Because the cash flow.
Yeah, the cash flows when the sky is falling. So you're never going to hear from the traditional nonprofit space about the wins. But really? I feel like we need the wins, man. We need hope. And our kids need hope. Man, I speak to college kids and high school kids all the time. These kids are not dreaming about their future. They think there is going to be no future because the planet's going to unwind. It's devastating our children, this whole climate change conversation at very early stages in life. And it just makes me think back to my dad. Like, my parents were I was blessed.
Did you ever hear of climate change as a kid?
No, but I remember when I was a little kid, and I was in, 1980, maybe 12 years old or something. I remember they told us that Miami was going to be underwater by 2000, and that's just a few things that we got back then. But now with connectivity, these kids are hearing this stuff all the time. And the primary reason they're hearing it is because the cash flows when the sky is falling in the nonprofit space. And I'm wondering, when are people going to start betting on the winners in the space? When are people going to start betting on the people that had an objective, accomplished it, and knocked it out? These other people, they keep looking at it. They keep looking at it. You never get any results. They never finish, because if they finish, their cash flow stops. They don't win. We must win. There is no losing this one. And so the whole thing is the system is backward. The way it's funded is backward. If you were betting on a company, you'd invest in the one that was winning. And people are like, oh, this is so bad. This group's been in the middle. Well, that group's been working on that for 20 years. You've been giving them money for 20 years. When are you going to sort out the fact that they're not getting it done?
Do you get funded?
We get funded we have some great companies that have been funding us over a number of years, because, there are companies like, you look at Acosta sunglasses or Yeti coolers, they realize that an ocean full of fish is their market, right? Then they have a market to sell their products to. So there are some great brands that do invest, because they know that, that people are going to need sunglasses if the ocean's full of fish, because they're going to go fish and they want to see them. And so then there's also been, regular philanthropists, big philanthropists who've helped us. And most recently, we're in the middle of building a new $55 million global headquarters in Jacksonville, Florida. And that's been funded primarily through the city of Jacksonville and the state of Florida. That's going to be the OCEARCH global headquarters. And then all the kids that go to college in Florida are going to be able to come out on the OCEARCH. We're going to put them on sharks, and we're going to crank out the best, most capable marine biologists in the world for the future. And we're in the midst of that project right now. We've raised about 28 million of the 55 million so far.
How do people help if they're interested in helping?
Yeah, you can just go to OCEARCH.org. You reach out to us. We're super accessible online and get involved. And especially if you want to get involved, some people want to get involved in the education component. We got a full K through 12 educational curriculum integrated into the science and integrated into the tracker. Some people want to get involved in the global HQ build. There's lots of different, some people want to help the science. The most interesting thing about this whole thing, when you look at a business and impact, it costs us about $2.5 million a year to give the scientists 3 expeditions, 3 one-month expeditions a year. And from that $2.5 million of the boat part, it trickles down to hundreds of millions of dollars of impact, right? Because you're getting 20 billion earned media impressions educating people about the ocean worth, tens of millions of dollars. You're getting all your students educated, inspiring the world. And this radical pyramid comes from just the ability of the fishermen to catch the first fish. That's the one thing I don't understand. These guys who put their body parts on the line to catch these fish, if they don't catch, there is no science. Yet people, when they ask what's going on in the ocean, they want to ask the scientists, not the fishermen. And the fishermen are out there every day, so it's, there needs to be more parallel love to this practical skills in our community. These guys, there would be no white shark puzzle solved if the fishermen didn't execute, right? Because then the scientists get the data after the fishermen execute. Let's deliver the shark to them. So we're trying to bring back that kind of mutual respect for both the practical and academic expertise at the same level. And I think that's something that's really been upside down in our society for several decades now.
So I'm just downloading your app here. I'm going to subscribe at your boss level.
Oh, thanks for subscribing. That's really the way, people can subscribe to the app and you get all this behind the scenes content and you get all the history of OCEARCH and a lot more connection to us. That really is the way for us over time to build this support that, to make this thing by the people for the people. Enough people are subscribing and consuming the content. It'll fund the ship, and then we give it to the scientists, and then our kids eat food.
Well, I want to find these fish. Where are they?
See right at the top there? Have you opened the app?
Yeah.
It would show a turtle. Just push that sideways and you'll find the next shark.
Oh, I got you.
And then tap on him and you can learn all about him. And then you can go down a little bit lower and see his full track.
So are these their names?
Yeah. What are you looking at, Scott?
Dold.
Dold.
Mira.
Yeah.
Contender.
Yeah.
What's the biggest one?
The biggest one we're tracking right now, the biggest male would be contender. But, we've tagged 4,000. We've worked up maybe 10 sharks in that 4,000 pound class for scientists around the world.
Is there any such thing as a megalodon?
No.
That's all hogwash. Was there ever?
Oh, of course. Yeah, definitely.
That was just a big ass shark.
Yeah, it was a giant shark, but it needed so much to eat. I think that all the stuff it needed to eat went away and then it couldn't quite make it. But those kind of megalodon things like that would eat a white shark for a snack,
How, you ever raise money by letting people name the shark?
We do. It's difficult. I put a little bounty on a shark for you guys here with your staff. I told them if you help us, kick it up maybe $100,000 or so, we'll either name a shark Brad, or you can crowdsource a name across your community and have your own shark. Wow. It costs about $200,000 a shark to tag one.
Wow.
By the time you look at all the people and the vessel and everything you need to get out there. So it is something we can do, but it's not something you can give away for a penny, right? Because other people are paying and companies are involved and you want to maintain a level playing field.
Well, me being the entrepreneur that I am, now a white shark is the same as a great white shark.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up. There's no such thing as a great white shark. That was just for the movies. They're just white sharks.
Are those the deadliest?
Probably not. Bull sharks, I think, because they come up and swim in freshwater rivers and in undeveloped parts of the world. I think there's a lot more going on than we know about, But the ones you see in the paper that are happening coastally is typically a white shark. And usually it's in an environment where someone's dressed up like a seal, put on a black wetsuit, and they go out and they're surfing amongst the seals. And then it confuses the shark and it hits them thinking it's the weak seal, right? Their job is to take out the slow moving weak one. And when you're out in an environment with seals, we are the slow moving weak one. It's amazing how infrequently we fool them. Because if you think about it, it would be very understandable if we fooled them 20 times a day, but it only happens about 10 times a year.
My thought as an entrepreneur would be like right now, if I could buy and change the name.
Sorry.
That's all right. From Contender to, for example, Lightspeed VT or Brad Lee.
Or I just catch a new one and put a tag on it. We name it that.
No, I know, but and then you just have more to name. But again, I'm thinking recurring revenue. I'm thinking, how do you raise a bunch of money? Because sometimes people don't donate. They'll listen to the show and they'll be like, I don't give a shit about a shark. Like, dude, do you give a shit about freaking food? Do you give a shit about the future? Do you give a shit about your grandkids? Then throw a freaking couple bucks. At least subscribe to the damn app, you cheap ass. But at the end of the day, when I'm looking through here, I'm thinking, dude, I'd put my name on that. Now, most people, they're not going to spend $100,000 to name a shark.
Yeah.
But I'd spend maybe, and I'll just use normal people's numbers because I might spend a little more, but let's say $100 to name a shark. And you go, well, dude, it costs $200,000 to name the shark. Yeah, but you make it a bid system.
Yeah, that'd be an interesting idea.
So I named the shark for $100. Now to name the shark, it's $150.
And just keep changing it online.
Dude, that ain't his real name.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like right now, if it's Contender, no, Contender's now Brad Lee, and we just raised some money. And then there's 30,000 people that want to name that theirs. And next thing you know, you just go catch more sharks. And pretty soon, dude, that would be a cool thing. Name the shark, but it costs you to name it. And then it's your name until someone outbids you.
Maybe we'll try that.
And it could be a
Contender, not Contender though, because Contender's named after Contender boats.
That is a good name though.
Those guys give us boats that allow us to catch these fish. They're big supporters. But
then that's what they did. They paid to name the shark.
They gave us a $250,000 boat.
Yeah. Well, there you go, folks. You want to name Contender? It's 300,000. And then Contender needs to come back and be like, here, I'll give you 2 boats. Okay, now it's 500,000. Or a monthly.
Yeah, name it for a month.
No. I mean like monthly fee.
Yeah.
Like, hey, I'll give you $100 a month.
Yeah.
Well, I'll give you $120 a month. Okay, I'll give you $180 a month. So now you get these recurring deposits.
Yeah.
Because, dude, it's easy for people to not want to help because they think, dude, what's my $100 going to do? Well, number one, it does a lot, right? When you get 1,000 people to give you $100, it's $100 grand.
Right.
And when nobody thinks that 100 is very much, and now you get nobody doing $100, well, dude, now it's nothing.
Yeah.
100 grand is quite a bit of dough. Not doing what you're doing. It costs you 200 grand to tag a shark.
Well, when you
why is it so expensive? And why isn't shark more expensive to eat? And why do you eat shark?
Well, most sharks you shouldn't eat, right? So sharks are what you call bioaccumulators. They're at the top of the food chain. So all the toxins in the ocean end up in them as they get eaten up the food chain. So you don't really want to eat shark. There's a few species of sharks that are okay. Thresher, mako maybe, but I don't really eat sharks.
Neither do I. But when I go to a restaurant, sometimes I see shark.
It's there. Yeah, it's there.
What kind of shark are they serving?
They're serving like thresher shark or mako shark.
Now, you always catch and release?
Yeah, when it comes to, we're only catching white sharks, right? And we have special permits to do that, and you're not allowed to take those sharks, right? So, but
you're
if you want to
catching them
eat
for
fish,
data,
though, huh?
You're catching them for data.
Yeah, we're
And then you
catching
let
them and
go.
releasing them and tracking them.
Have you ever acted? Because I've been fishing before where I was going to catch and release because I don't really like fish, so I'm a catch and releaser. I like the fish though.
Yeah.
And sometimes I catch them and
foul hook them or something.
I do something wrong.
Yeah,
and
I think
they ain't making it.
And the 400 sharks, I think you're looking at in 1% kind of number, maybe 4.
And
over the years.
And how do you, you're trying to get the big ones.
Right.
So how do you get the big ones and not get the small ones, the size of the hook?
Yeah, and the size of, and where we're located. So we're primarily catching these animals right in front of big seal colonies, right? So sharks have to be a certain size to even come in and start chewing on seals, maybe 10, 11 feet. That's a small one for us. So we're getting in the midst of them coming in on their seal hunt and trying to kind of get in the middle of that mix and then tempt them with a bait. And we use big baits, right? Baits that are far bigger than you would be used to seeing, a 20-pound bait, and that bait could be anything from like a giant bluefin tuna head to some various other things. And so we don't use a rod and reel. There's no rod and reel big enough for what we do. This is all hand lining and boat driving. So these are the guys are fighting these big animals with their hands on a line directly connected to these big sharks. And then we'll start to introduce buoys in between us and them to kind of put more pressure on them till we get them to give up. Sharks have this condition called learned helplessness, where if you put a lot of pressure on a shark, it'll figure out that it doesn't have a chance to get away and it'll quit. Because, we catch 4,000-pound white sharks in 40 minutes. It's not tired in 40 minutes. It's chosen to give up.
Isn't that interesting?
Yeah, it's more like teaching a dog how to heel or breaking a horse than catching a fish, the work we do. So we'll have gear out and a bait, and they'll pick it up, and they'll actually start swimming off with it. And then we'll chase them down in the contender, and we'll start picking up the line that they're towing around with the buoys at the tail end of it. One of the interesting things is people think you're going to come in there and they'll be like, it's like this big man. We go up, we pick that thing up. We don't even try to make noise on the boat because they can hear everything. And we'll pick up the end of the line and try to not let them know we have the end of the line. And if the ship is over there, Captain Brettle, he knows if he just puts a little bit of pressure in the corner of the mouth, the thing will go in a slow turn toward the ship. And then we'll take the pressure off and walk it back to the ship, not pull it, like a fish. And when it gets right back next to the ship, then we spin the boat around. We put a whole bunch of buoys right in front of its nose. And then we tow it around to the lift on the side of the ship. And those buoys prevent it from diving under the lift. Brett will jump over with the line, and then we'll swing the big...
Who will jump over?
Captain Brett.
Jump over in the water?
Yeah, so we'll be in the contender, and you got to realize we'll be pulling this or the shark will be walking behind us. But, the lift is there, and it wants to move away from the lift. So what Brett does is he gets up on the bow of the contender, and when I come along the side of the lift, he leaps into the lift with the line in his hand, and he puts it over a post that's next to the ship, which changes the angle from which we're pulling the shark. And then I can drive forward in the contender, and it'll suck the shark right into the lift. But over the years, it's crazy. We've tried a million different ways on how to get that line from the one boat over to the other boat. And it's just one of those things, man. The easiest way to do it is just have a badass individual grab it in their hand, leap over into the lift and slip it over the pole and get out of the way, and Brett is the man for that. He is, it's easy for him. And,
so you ever hear if sharks stop swimming, they die?
Yeah, I think that's, false.
False.
There's some sharks that they call ram ventilators that they got to keep moving. But, look, we see them all the time. They're sitting on the bottom. Remember, there's current in the ocean, just like there's a breeze on land. And you see these sharks like sitting between two rocks with their face pointing into the current, and the current is just flowing through their mouths. It's like they're moving forward, but they're not moving forward, right? So there's some truth to that with certain species, but there's many, many that can just sit on the bottom in the right places. No problem.
Which are the ones where you swim with them and you're not scared?
All of them pretty much,
Shit, for me, none of them. But like you go to like Maldives and you see people.
Those little reefy sharks are no problem.
But do they have teeth?
Oh yeah, but they're eating little fish on the reef, and those
Who
sharks
gives a
those
rat's
sharks are
ass?
so important. Like you want to understand how like the reef works, and we have reefs dying. When you lose the sharks, the reef die. You know why? All those little fish that pick at the reef. If there's no sharks there, they can eat 24 hours a day. If the sharks are there, they have to hide all day, and they can't eat, and then they come out at night, and then they don't overeat the reef, and the reef comes back. So the sharks affect every system.
They're like bees on land.
Yeah, they affect bees are fundamentally important to the future. Yeah, the white sharks.
I was reading something again. I didn't understand or believe it. I mean, I believe it, but I mean, I didn't understand. But apparently, if the bees went away,
big problems.
We're going to have no food.
No food, no pollination occurring.
So now you're saying if the sharks go away, we're going to have no food. But what if we still have bees? We'd still have food on land. We just wouldn't have fish.
If we lose our sharks and the ocean's not working, there might not be any rain falling on those plants.
So you're just basically saying, dude, sharks will screw up the ecosystem. Do you believe in God?
Sharks will save the ecosystem. I believe in a creator for sure.
Yeah, that's what I call it, creator. But because, dude, when you think about it, like a bee doesn't exist and the whole thing falls apart.
Right.
Who thought of the bee? And now there's a shark. And if the shark don't exist, the whole thing falls apart. You mean that shark is necessary? Like, how are all these things so miraculously intertwined and codependent if there was no intelligent design?
Yeah.
It makes no sense. Like a bee will screw up the whole thing. Yeah, a bee will screw up the whole thing.
No, you're right. I mean, it's very difficult to explain any other sort of kind of path.
And what you're saying is a shark. Now, what about if there were no seals? Wouldn't it do the same thing?
If there were no seals, well, we got to a point where there was no seals. That's, in 1955, we passed the Marine Mammal Protection Act when we had almost wiped out all of our seals and all of our whales. And that was the beginning of them slowly coming back. But again, you were just seeing a completely dysfunctional system. And at that time we were overfishing and we had wiped out everything. I mean, I don't know if you spent much time on the water in the 70s and 80s, but off of our coasts, particularly Florida and the East Coast of the United States, I mean, you couldn't catch. And now we have whales and seals and tuna leaping in front of the Statue of Liberty in New York Harbor again.
Really?
That hadn't happened forever.
See, how come no one talks about the good shit?
Because the cash doesn't flow unless the sky is falling, bro. It's just a joke. Nobody's approaching it like a business. Here's our objective. Here's the people. Here's the financing. Here's the tools. Do it.
Hey, look, we're winning. Give us some more money so we can win even more.
Like, for example, there's 9 white shark puzzles around the world. We just, for the first time in history, solved the full life history off the East Coast of the United States of any one of the 9 puzzles. Where are they mating? Where are they giving birth? How do we bring them back? And we're winning. There's 8 more puzzles to go. If we had 4 boats, I could be solving 4 of them at a time. Right now, I got 1 boat moving around the world at 9 knots. Taking 10 years 6 years at a time to solve a puzzle, which is going to take me, the rest of my life to solve 3 or 4 more. But if you had 4 boats, you could do it all at the same time.
Why doesn't some philanthropist, the president, why doesn't these governments, why does nobody just say, here, dude, here's your 4 freaking boats?
I don't know, man. I think it's all flowing through USAID. I don't know. I don't see the money showing up on the water and we're out there.
Because they're freaking studying how transgender mice interact with cartoons.
Yeah. No, we're definitely doing what the government should be doing. I mean, from a big picture standpoint, we're collecting the data to make sure our people eat food in the future. That's kind of normally something. But what happened is everyone gets rid of their boats. Like back in the day, universities had boats and the government had boats and they would send people out on boats. But then when all the money shifted to social programs and they got rid of the boats because the boats are expensive and they break and then you got to fix them. And so now nobody has any boats and we're driving around in our little boat, taking out all the scientists, solving like the most fundamental puzzle, like the life history of the system manager. It's kind of crazy if you think at a big picture, for sure.
How did Jacques Cousteau do it?
Jacques Cousteau was my hero. I benchmark his life when I began. And, he was an entrepreneur too. Like, he invented the aqualung. You may not know that. He invented scuba diving. He invented the first underwater housings and underwater cameras. He introduced the world to underwater film for the first time.
Really?
And then he had an entrepreneur partner, a very, I haven't found mine yet, like that billionaire partner. And they built some businesses that spun off of what he did. And they had that kind of whole side business going. And he had a big supporter. And thank God for him, But then when Cousteau left us, it all ended.
How much is a boat?
The replacement cost for a vessel like ours is just under $20 million. I got a great story about how I found the boat if you want to hear it.
Yeah.
So I was making offshore adventures, and we were down in Los Sueños, Costa Rica. Los Sueños, we used to shoot a lot of big game fishing shows out of there back in the late 90s and early 2000s. And this Bering Sea crabber was parked in the bay. And it carries a 50-foot sport fisher and a 28-foot center console in a car. And I was in this 70-foot boat we'd been making offshore adventures on. I'm like, wow, look at that thing, like anywhere, anytime, And I go into the bathroom at the top of the dock later that night, and this engineer goes, hey, man, the guy might be trying to sell the mothership out there with the game boat. I was like, oh, my God, that would be unbelievable. And that's beyond my kind of numbers. I could look around and get a general idea of what's going on. And he goes, no, I think the guy might want to get rid of it. And it was a gentleman named Frank Miles who had a bunch of quarries out of Washington State. And he had boats all over the world and condos all over the world. And this was his mothership to fish the last untouched places. And he had me out, and I went out and I said, Mr. Miles, I'd love to buy this boat, but the boats you have on deck are a bigger number than I can make. And he goes, well, what number could you make, Chris? I'm kind of done with this. I like what you're doing. And I gave him the number, and he goes, it's yours. And he sold it to me for maybe a fifth of what I could see around me, because he wanted to get rid of it. And, it was a very unique thing. And I tell this story about the opportunity bus because my dad used to always talk about the opportunity bus. Like, this was the opportunity. Like, I was never going to have another chance to own a ship because the $20 million number was not a number for me. And I didn't really know at the time what we were going to do with it, but I knew we were maxed out on our other boat. We were maxed out with our capacity. And I knew if I didn't do it, I couldn't really see the path going on at a bigger, grander scale, which was really interesting to me. So he gave me that boat for a fifth of what he had in it, I think. And because of that, we've been able to build OCEARCH. None of this work would have happened without him. But we had the courage to jump on the opportunity bus. That one wasn't coming back around the block.
Is there a shark named Miles?
No, but I'm going to name one Miles now.
You have to.
I do keep his family informed and say thank you and let them know what's going on. But I'm going to do that.
Or maybe just
Frank.
Honor the biggest one so far and name it Miles Contender.
Yeah, no, Frank will get his own shark.
How come they can't have a first and a last name?
That's true, man. Yeah, we can double up.
That one's Miles Contender. Dude, I guarantee you, something about the naming can raise you money. Because people, number one, you got millions of people tracking these sharks. What the hell you want to track a shark for? Because it's fun. So is naming it.
Yeah.
But to track them, you're getting, what I forget, it's chump change. Like,
yeah.
Dude, now, hey, you want to name a shark? Like when I logged in, bang, thank you. You just helped your kids eat, bang, you want to name a shark? Not now. Absolutely. Absolutely. Here's your levels. You want to name a little baby thresher shark with no teeth in the Maldives, or do you want to name Miles Contender?
Yeah. The 4,000-pound mature male.
What is the biggest shark you've ever caught? That one?
Well, so we've caught 10 of them in this 4,000-pound class, but we've tangled with 2 sharks around the world that were definitely like 50% bigger, like 6,000-pound class sharks. These things look like orcas. One of them was in Africa and one of them was in the Farallones. And so there's definitely animals much bigger than these 18-foot, 4,000-pound animals we're dealing with. Now, I don't think there's many of those animals here now, but there's going to be more and more because, these animals, like we're catching these 4,000-pound animals. These are 50 to 70-year-old fish, So we wiped them out so bad. These animals can't reproduce and have babies till they're 30. So
wow.
and then they only have like 6 to 8 pups every other year. And so they got to live 30 years just to replace themselves. So you can see how they can't really handle any pressure.
And those other pups get eaten by other things.
Right. And so of those 6 to 10 that are born every other year, you're hoping a couple make it to maturity because they got to live 30 years.
That's the question, is how do they survive? Who's out to kill them? Orcas?
No, the orcas is not a problem. Historically in the past, it's just been overfishing.
So man again is the culprit.
Well, when Jaws came out, the sharks were demonized and it was like open season on every shark. And then in the 80s and 90s, when Asia started to erupt, when I was working in Asia over in the 90s, the shark fin soup craze exploded across China. And shark fin soup is like $100 a bowl because back in the day, only the emperor could have it. So if you have it at your family wedding or whatever, it's big face. And so this tremendous population and the Asian population started to really want shark fin soup. And so we're losing like 100 million sharks a year for shark fin soup and overfishing right now. And they just chop off their fins and dump them. And then they go to make a bowl of soup. And so that was going on big in the 80s and 90s. And we just decimated our shark populations worldwide. Now we've gotten a little bit of handle on that. That demand is dropping. The young people in Asia get it. They're not into it. Some of the older people still are, but that'll fade away. And so it was really the shark fin industry and overfishing and the kind of the craze after Jaws. And then as we got into the early 90s, we're like, oh, wow, this is having really bad trickle-down effects here. The trophic cascade, which they would say in the science space, the trickle-down effect of losing the sharks is catastrophic for the systems.
What about making money, or raising money, I should say, through like fishing poles and sponsorships like that? Like for every fishing pole sold, OCEARCH gets $1.
Right. So we have partners like Costa Sunglass who do that, Yeti Coolers who do programs like that.
Yeti's awesome. I've never heard of Costa Sunglasses.
Yeah, if you work on the water and you're out of the southeast, they dominate the eastern seaboard.
They're a fisherman's glass.
Yeah, like if you want to look in the water and you look at glasses like a tool to succeed at your job, you're wearing Costas. They're the best in the world.
And it like polarized or something, so you can see.
Yeah, they have the best technology and the polarization and the different shades for the different light levels so that you can actually see into the water.
So it's not illegal to go great white or white shark fishing.
Yeah, I mean, it still happens where people catch them kind of accidentally, right? And then you just got to reel them up and cut them off real quick. It's okay. They're durable. Just don't try to handle them.
What's going on with shark attacks lately?
Shark attack numbers are pretty static. It's about the same every year, 8 to 12 worldwide fatal shark attacks.
So it's back to the whole sky is falling, because I just saw a thing the other day. Shark attacks are increasing.
So this is like the big joke, right? Like if you're a serious person and you work on the water, most of these shark attacks a lot of them are happening in a place called New Smyrna Beach, Florida, where they have this tremendous black-tip shark migration. These are like 4-foot sharks. And people are surfing amongst them and dangling their hands and their toes in, and they get nipped and they go to the hospital and they need 8 or 10 stitches, and that's a shark attack. Whereas we just kind of call them ankle biters. And so you have hundreds and hundreds of those, which they're calling shark attacks. Those are really more like shark interactions. And then
what would be an attack?
Well, it's when the one makes the mistake and you're surfing amongst the seals and boom, you get hit by a white shark.
Why do you always think it's a mistake? How do you know they're not?
Because they don't turn back and eat them. They're like crunchy, too not fatty enough, too bony. But they don't have hands. Their hand is their mouth. So like, what was that? And then it's the wrong thing. You don't see white sharks spinning and like consuming a human like they would a seal.
Have they ever?
Oh, I'm sure it's probably happened at some point, but generally speaking, no. Like they know that's the wrong thing. Like think about the difference between us and a seal. You got this big blubbery, super rich juices and oil flying in your face, or you get one of us, which is kind of like dry and bony, right? They're just like wrong thing.
It wouldn't be dry. You'd be gushing blood.
Yeah, but compared to like the blubber of a seal and the oils and the juices, it seems dry, right?
What about blood attracts sharks?
Myth.
What about,
from my experience, yeah.
What about shark teeth? If you see like some dude with a shark tooth on his necklace, is that
Oh, I think it's okay. Shark teeth fall out. People find them. It's fine. Whatever they're into.
So what is something that most people would never guess about a shark?
I think they wouldn't know that like these 4-year-old white sharks, their annual migration off our East Coast is all the way from Newfoundland, Canada, all the way around the southern Florida and across the Gulf of Mexico. And they're balanced by the time they're 4. Gulf of America. Sorry about that. Old habits die hard. Yeah, no, I'm all about it. I'm down with it. So yeah, the Gulf, yeah.
People sometimes think I'm like, all conservative on everything. Dude, I'm not political at all, but I think we can name the damn thing whatever we want to name it. And when people get offended because someone changed the name, it's pretty funny to me.
Yeah, I mean,
because
we got so many people looking to be offended these days.
And it's just a name.
Yeah.
It's the Gulf of America. No, it's the Gulf of Mexico. First of all, Mexico it's not the Gulf of Mexico. I don't know why it would be named that anyway.
Right.
Well, someone said, that used to be Mexico.
Wrapping up and through Texas, I guess, yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, dude.
But that was a long time ago.
Yeah, exactly. It's the Gulf of America. And
I think these kind of subjects are, so many people are looking to be offended these days. Like if they just focus themselves on being productive, it would be just a much better place.
So what can we learn about sharks to apply in our businesses? What are some shark-like behavior that an entrepreneur would do well emulating?
Chasing the critical path. These are the most efficient animals in the system, right? There is no wasted movement or energy, right? So they know their objective and they are moving on the critical path in the most efficient path to get to that objective all the time. So I think...
And then what not to do is quit.
There's no quitting.
Sharks quit.
Oh yeah? I don't think so.
That's what you just said.
There's no quitting. What do you mean? They quit, they die.
No, you said they quit. You said you tire them out and where they're not.
Oh, really that's learned helplessness. Yes. Yeah.
They quit.
Well, so you could say the same thing about humans.
Well,
because you know what the learned helplessness is like, when you have a colicky baby and you swaddle it real hard and it can't move and then they quit crying, that is also learned helplessness. It's the same characteristic.
Well, again, I'm not putting down sharks. You don't have to defend
I'm leveraging the fact of that because it'd be hard to handle them if they didn't have that trait.
Well, see, again, that's almost like, that's why, there's stuff. A creator, like, dude, like, it knows what to do. But my point is as an entrepreneur, be efficient. That's good. Don't quit because sharks will quit if that learned helplessness,
when they're being caught, but that leads them to them surviving because they know that if they keep fighting, they're going to die. So they quit out of self-preservation.
Why would they die though?
Well, because they'll fight to the death and then overstress out. Like their whole system will short circuit, right? If they didn't quit, they would just fight to the death, right? Until their lactic acid in their system just cooks them, their body.
There's never been cancer in a shark.
That's a myth.
Another myth.
Yeah.
How come there's so many myths? So
they're like the cancer in the shark. Yeah, I'll give you that it's very, very rare. But I mean, I've handled several sharks with big tumors on them.
Really?
And if you talk to our chief scientist, who's also a veterinarian, Dr. Harley Newton, she's a beast in the space. She would tell you the same thing, but a very low percentage, we do see some cancers, but they have an incredible capacity to heal. One of the things we're working on, we take all the bacteria off their teeth, tongue, and gums in their bodies, and we're developing new antibiotics for humans from that. And, there's so much to be learned from an animal that's been around for over 30 million years because their system has evolved to fight off lots of things that our systems haven't had time to evolve to do yet. So there's the simplicity and the effectiveness of their system. Like these things will bite each other violently in mating with massive open wounds. And then you see the same shark just a few weeks later and it's healed up. So they have this capacity for rapid healing. They have a whole set of bacteria on their bodies that's producing antibiotics that we've never seen before. And we're trying to understand if we can help humans with that. And then in addition, from their teeth, tongue, and gums, we take the bacteria off. And if there is a shark incident in a specific region, we can tell the hospital exactly what antibiotic to use for that person, because typically they'll guess and try. And if they get it wrong for a few days, you might end up losing a leg or an arm or a life. So we are, doing some medical kind of research to help humans learning from the sharks and their evolution as well.
How do sharks mate?
Mating is very violent. The males will actually grab the females with their mouths right on the side of their head and try to roll them over. The males have 2 claspers. They call it claspers. And they'll actually insert the clasper into the female and mate. But it's very violent on the females. And
so basically they rape them.
it's like a lot of things you see in the wild, right? You know, wild animals, whether it's lions or anything else. Yeah, they have to grab a hold of them, or even ducks, you know, like they have to.
But a lot of times you'll see mating rituals of animals, and one has to be the biggest and the prettiest and, the machoist or whatever, but eventually the female picks it, and then they mate. It sounds like
not quite like
the female is not down in any way.
Well, she's down by being present. Remember, all these females are the big giant ones. The females are much bigger than the males when it comes to white sharks and most other species in the ocean, because they got to carry the babies, right? And so to some degree or another, she's allowing it to occur, because if she didn't want it, she could completely dominate the male based on just her sheer physical size. A big, we'll catch a 17-foot male white shark that'll weigh 2,200 pounds. We'll catch an 18-foot female, basically the same size, weigh 4,000 pounds, just way bigger, girthier, because they're carrying 10, 45-pound pups,
How could you tell the difference?
You can see the claspers on the male.
Are claspers the little...
Yeah. It's a reproductive organ. There's 2 claspers on their back. They got 2. And you can just see it by looking at them. And the females do not.
And again, they don't come up for breath. They don't breathe air like a whale.
But they do come up finning. Like, thank God for that iconic picture you're used to. And what we do is we mount a tag on the top of that fin. And then every time it sticks its fin out of the water, through the satellite right into the tracker.
What if it stays down?
Well, we have another tag that we put on them. It's an acoustic tag. If they swim by a receiver, it'll know that's there, but then you got to go grab the receiver. You found out the shark was there later. It's not really real time. They're working on some real time applications for that, but these spot tags we put on their fins are the way, but you don't get data unless they fin. But they fin a lot. But
that's what they call it, finning?
Yeah, when they stick their fin out of the water, yeah.
And do you see it like, the Contender's out in the middle of nowhere, or the Contender's right next to New Smyrna?
Oh, we definitely have these animals coming right into the beach. I mean, we tagged this big female shark named Mary Lee in 2012, was the second shark ever tagged in the Atlantic off the Cape Cod in the whole eastern seaboard. At that time, people said there was no white sharks in Florida. People were guessing, where's this white shark going to go? And people were guessing out in the middle of the ocean. Anyway, Mary Lee, this is a 4,000-pound, giant female. She went directly to Jacksonville. And I didn't know what to do. I had just started the tracker, and I was in Park City. I'd flown home, and I was with blizzard. It was like January, midnight there. I'm like, man, there's a 4,000-pound white shark right underneath the Jacksonville Beach Pier. And I didn't know what to do. I just started the tracker, and I was like, I got to call somebody. And so I picked up the phone and I called the Jacksonville Beach Police Department. I'm like, this is the craziest phone call you've ever gotten. I don't know what to do, but I got a 4,000-pound white shark like right under the pier at the surf spot. It's 2 hours till dawn there. They closed down the beach, and then Mary Lee popped up and pinged 3 miles off the beach. A couple hours later, they reopened it. But then the whole world found out about our work. It just exploded around OCEARCH, and that was a real big lift from transitioning from TV to open sourcing the project. And so these white sharks are sticking their noses in all the rivers and estuaries. Wherever the life is, they are. So if there's a big bait run on the beach, or the black drum are running or whatever, white sharks are on it. They even, like when it gets real cold in Florida, it pushes all the porpoise out of the rivers from the backcountry. And they sit outside the rivers and whack the porpoise when they're pushed out in the cold, right? They eat whatever they want. So no, they're all around us all the time.
That's another way to make money. Let me subscribe, especially if I'm an ocean goer, because there's a lot of people on the coast where they don't care about sharks unless they're there.
Yeah.
So like I'd track sharks if I went to the ocean, but I would subscribe for you to push me a notification in my area. Like I would have wanted to know if I was a surfer, hey, there's a 4,000-pound shark in the water right under the pier.
Yeah, there is a way to do that.
That would be worth money.
I like the push notification idea, because we kind of feel like we can't withhold the information behind a paywall because there's so much public safety involved. But getting a notification and not having to go look is something you could add a layer on. No, that's
a convenience.
Yeah, that's a convenience.
And if I were a surfer, bro, trust me, I want to know if there's sharks out there.
And you don't want to necessarily have to go look. You want to get notified.
This is the craziest thing that I don't understand about the surfers. They know they're sharks.
Oh, yeah.
But they don't care.
Well, they love it so much. And look, there is no real, the fear of a shark incident is an irrational fear that doesn't statistically exist. Like it is way more dangerous for me to get on the 15 and go to the airport than go swimming. There's going to be 100,000 people die in car accidents this year. And in the United States, maybe 2 from sharks or 1 or none. So every day we have these risks in our lives. More people die from toasters than sharks.
Yeah, but
year.
I mean, if I were swimming with sharks my whole life and none of them have ever attacked me, I'd have no more fear.
Right.
But if I knew there's sharks, especially a 4,000 pound shark in that vicinity.
Yeah.
I don't want my daughter in there. Yeah. I don't want to be in there. And it's
common sense. Yeah.
It's not a fear. It's a freaking preservation instinct. You are part of the food chain in the ocean.
That's right.
And I am not going around a 4,000 pound shark, whether or not they attack me or not, just like I wouldn't get in a gorilla cage if the gorilla's never attacked anybody.
Or play with bears or lions.
Yeah, not doing it. I won't play with a cobra just because it's never bit anybody. Why? Because it could.
It doesn't pass the common sense test.
No, it's an animal. It's a freaking wild.
Yeah, but the surfers, I mean, they know they're passionate about it. They love the ocean, and the odds of anything occurring are, like I said, hanging out in the parking lot at the beach is more dangerous than going swimming.
Yeah, maybe. That doesn't scare me.
From a statistical standpoint.
Well, because number one, there's people, there's police. If I start getting my ass beat.
Other people are the problem.
I know, but if I start getting my ass beat, that's okay. I've had my ass beat. I don't want my arm missing. You know the surfer girl that, what's her name? Bethany, maybe?
Yeah.
Yeah, like she got her arm bit off and still surfs. Like that is freaking courageous.
There's quite a few people like that. Mike Coots, there's several people that have been through that experience, and it's kind of triggered them to become big advocates for sharks over the course of their lives. And takes a lot of courage, you would think, if to be through that. I've been in the water with sharks that are trying to go after Brett or trying to come after me, and we've backed up and we fought off hundreds of sharks over our years in the water together.
Okay, so let me ask you this then. Let's say you're in the water, there is a shark in the area, and it is being aggressive. Is there a way, like someone told me, you punch it in the nose?
Well, the first thing you do, that's after you're already engaged with the animal. But really, the main thing to do is keep your eyes on it.
What's that going to do?
Well, they see you seeing them. They used to chasing everything. So you want to look at that thing. You want to eyeball that thing, and you want to get that thought in your head, just like, when you feel like you're going to get jacked up and you're in the middle of something, or you're going to get very physical. You can see me kind of doing it right now. And you want to swim right at them. And just eyeball them like, I'm coming in to hurt you or kill you. And you want to get that energy coming out of your body. And they're not used to anything coming after them. They chase everything. You're not going to outswim it.
No, hell.
So you may as well go right at it.
Swim a freaking turtle.
You may as well go right at it. And when you go at it, you'll see they just bend off and they stay away. They're like, whoa, nothing chases me. What's going on here? This is unusual. So you want to I've had countless times where I've seen sharks coming in on the back of Brett, and I've had to get that kind of crazed emotional feeling in my body and eyeball that thing and swim straight at it like I'm taking you out. And it's amazing how they can feel it. They just bend away. They're like, something's not right here.
But aren't you on the top of the water?
Yeah, but I'm usually with mask fin and snorkel.
So you're looking down at them.
Those were days back when we made a spearfishing show for ESPN, and we were in the water all the time fighting off sharks in the Pacific.
It didn't bother you at all.
It's just part of it,
I saw recently a show where there's a pretty girl, and I didn't know if it was AI, because now you don't know what's real anymore. Yeah. But it shows her petting a shark, and the shark is literally friendly to her, not to everybody, but she's built a relationship with this shark, and it swims up. And you think that's real or AI? No,
I know it's real. But these kind of things always concern me. It's kind of like, you remember the story about the wolf man and the bear guy and the lion guy, and the kind of all those stories end the same way.
They all get eaten.
And so, you get someone like her who's got a real gift, and it's fine, but other people see it and then they try to do it, and it doesn't work itself out the way it does for her. So I think that, look, I don't play with lions, tigers, bears, or sharks. It just doesn't pass the common sense test for me.
Well, you know what I say? I don't fuck with three things: rattlesnakes, headaches, or condoms.
I mean, who can argue with that?
Yeah. And I'm going to add sharks. I don't mess with sharks.
Yeah, no, it's, we do it in a way where we're dominating the situation with, equipment. And we've been very fortunate. Our biggest challenge out there is dealing with weather. We deal with gnarly weather. And
yeah, that's another thing, dude. How ugly does that get?
As ugly as it can get, you try to stay out of it. And if we're doing our job right, we're out of the weather before the weather hits. We can't really pick these sharks up once the weather gets real big.
Well, dude, how can the Bomb Squad, which is the audience, help you? Subscribe to the app. If there's any big dollar, which I have some crazy rich people that listen to the show. It's amazing. Like one guy I know, I just met him. He's like worth $180 million. And he's like, yeah, I've been listening to your show for 6 years. I'm like, dude, awesome. You got $180 million. What are you listening to my show for? He goes, what are you talking about, dude? I've learned so much from the people on your show. So if there's any big ballers that want to donate a $20 million boat.
Well, the big ballers really, what we have for somebody is, the OCEARCH endowment at the New World headquarters. Like if you want to have know that you're going to have a global impact on the future of the ocean and have your name and an ocean legacy, we have a $50 million endowment that will guarantee you your family goes down in history as one of the great ocean advocates because the model is already proven, right? We've been doing this now 48 expeditions over the last 17 years.
That's more than Jacques Cousteau.
I'm going to triple up on Cousteau. He led 22. And so that's a real opportunity for that Wright family who wants like a global ocean legacy that's out there. And then, of course, there's all sorts of philanthropic opportunities in between there. And then, all the merch at the site for people who just want to buy cool OCEARCH sweatshirts and all that stuff kicks down to help the ship.
Who makes your merch?
We work with a company called Pinpoint out of...
they got sharks on it, obviously.
Oh, yeah. It's all OCEARCH gear. It's all made in America. It's all coming right out of Texas.
Cool.
And so, yeah, the merch is a great way. We're really trying to find a way for every person to get involved at every level because it's going to take us all in the end.
What about, now I know you take presidents and dignitaries and big important people out on the boat fishing. How do you... Maybe
every summer we run a contest. You can win a contest to meet a shark right now and come out on the ship with us.
What about swimming with sharks?
It goes back to the whole, I don't play with, lions, tigers, or bears. I mean, you can get in a cage if you want, but.
You ever see the one that went in the cage?
Yeah. Yeah. That was a kerfuffle. Yeah. That whole island now is shut down because of that. No research, no more shark diving, anything because of that incident. They the Mexican government shut it down. Well,
folks, listen, and then real quick, again, tell them the bottom line is like, listen, you can turn the other way and act like it doesn't matter. And who cares about the ocean and who cares about sharks? If someone doesn't do something, what's going to happen?
Well, we're going to end up in a situation where our climate is we don't have enough water and we're running an air issue and a food problem. There's about 3 billion people a year every day that count on their protein from the ocean. And there's just no life on land for us. Remember, land is a very small part of Earth. So if the whole other part is not working, the land part doesn't work. That's why I got involved in the ocean space in the beginning. Like, it doesn't matter if you're doing a bunch of great projects on land if we don't sort out the ocean because it's all over anyway. So, yeah, I think OCEARCH is an opportunity to just come and get involved. Like, this is the first time the most charismatic ocean research project in the world is we're solving the life puzzle of the white sharks is fully open to the public. We got a full K through 12 STEM-based educational curriculum free that is next generation science standards and integrated into all of our science and tracking. So we got all the homeschoolers and many schools across all 50 states using that. If you're big into education, our goal with that is we need to make sure that we raise the data-driven centrist resource managers of the future. Like, you wouldn't believe these battles I fight. Like, the problems we have with preservationists is just as big a problem as the poachers. Because these preservationists, they're so position-oriented. They're not solution-oriented. It's like all or nothing. I'll be like, hey, man, we can get you a 25% gain in mortality from this one. No, it's all. You can't catch any or nothing. These preservationist types, they're just as bad as the poachers. And that's why I get so passionate about being the data-driven centrist. Like, the path to abundance is not emotional. It is just math and science. And these people who get emotional about it, they screw the whole thing up because, well, this feels good. Well, the data says we don't need to do that, and then they cause gridlock, and then we don't make these like incremental gains. 5% a year is really powerful over 5 years. But if you're all or nothing all the time, well, then I guess you get nothing.
Dude, I need my bomb button back here soon. You've been dropping them, but they moved it out there so they could get better sound quality.
Sorry, I get jacked up about it, man. Like, we can't lose this one.
That's the point, though. Like, dude, a little bit is better than nothing.
Yeah, the inch is a cinch, a yard is hard, man. Just keep grinding out the inches, and over time, you're winning.
Yeah, and get along, work together. That's how OCEARCH is working. They've taken the freaking fishermen, the salty men, and they put them with the freaking pipe smoking, turtleneck wearing scientists that don't know how to fish. Put them together, and what do you got? Now you got results. Now you got impact. So folks, go out and help. Do anything you can. OCEARCH.org. You can follow this dude, Chris Fischer. He's at Chris OCEARCH on Instagram. You guys can Google him. He's all over social. He's all over the internet. Google him. Do your part. Save the ocean so our kids can have a freaking fish sandwich.
Well, yeah, man. And let's get the entrepreneurs. Like, I'm passionate after getting in the space. Like, if we want to make this happen, it's going to be the entrepreneurs. It's going to be the creators. It's going to be the people who create value and create the academic system. If we're all going to sit back and make our dough and figure these guys are just going to handle it for us, we will be sorely disappointed in the end.
And guys, listen, I want everybody, because I don't charge you guys for this info, and I guarantee you I've dropped enough knowledge after 900 episodes. And by the way, I always, I have 900 episodes. I don't do background checks on everybody. So sometimes I might platform some dipshit that turns out to be a dipshit. But normally I'm generally platforming people that need to get the information out to the people who need it for a lot of reasons. But since I don't charge people, here's what I want. I want, if you would consider, go at least sign up for the app. Okay. There's a free version. There's a paid version. I'm talking about the paid version. If there's any philanthropist, chuck a few bucks and donate so he can freaking go out and save the planet. And more importantly, get to 100 grand, because I want to name a shark, and we're going to call him the bomb, or we're just going to call him Bombs.
We'll wait till we get a big mature male.
Yeah, big old bomb squad. But man, that'd be freaking awesome if I could name a shark. So I need 100 G's, folks. Go do your thing, Bomb Squad. Chris, I appreciate what you're doing. My great grandkid appreciates what you're doing. And even if some dickheads don't care, I do, and I appreciate you.
It's been a privilege.
Thanks for coming in. And anytime you come back in Vegas, you're not too far away. We'll keep up with it and see what goes down. After this episode drops, tell me if anything happens, if I got any influence. If I don't, dude, I'm shutting it down. Until next time, folks, keep it real.